When Troy Davis was put to death last week for the 1989 killing of an off-duty police officer in Georgia, his case drew international attention. His story was told on every major news network, and big names like Pope Benedict, Desmond Tutu, and former President Jimmy Carter all said the execution should have been called off. Another controversial execution was that of George Junius Stinney, Jr. Never heard of him? Well, it may be because he was put to death back in 1944. Why should we know his name? Because he was the youngest person legally put to death in the U.S. since the 1800s. At 14 years old, 6 months as well, and 5 days old, he was legally electrocuted in Columbia, South Carolina for murdering 2 white girls with a railroad spike. National Public Radio reports he confessed to the crime. The trial lasted less than 3 hours. No witnesses were called, no defense evidence was presented, and it took an all-white jury 10 minutes to give him the chair. Some report that Stinney was bribed into confessing for ice cream, and that at 5'1", they actually needed to stack up books to fit him on the electric chair. Joining me now for today's Undercovered story, Mark Lamont Hill, a professor at Columbia University and the host of Our World with Black Enterprise. Mark, thank you so much. First, do you think that this boy was physically capable of killing 2 girls with a railroad spike?
Absolutely not. You know, when you weigh 95 pounds at that age, it is nearly a physical impossibility to kill 1, much less 2 girls with a railroad spike. I mean, it's physically impossible. All the other evidence says he didn't do it as well, but that part alone should have stopped anyone from moving further.
And when you think about this, he's 14 years old. The possibility, according to some reports, that he was given ice cream to confess. What do you make of that?
I mean, it just speaks to just how disturbing, I mean, even disgusting, the whole process was. First of all, a 14-year-old boy should have never been in police custody without an attorney, and certainly without his parents, but nonetheless he was there. And then the idea that there was no written confession, that all they had was supposedly an oral confession of this boy, which was prompted by ice cream, suggests again that something was foul here. In fact, everything was foul here. There's no way a 14-year-old boy could do it, and if he did do it, there's certainly no way he would confess, knowing the stakes were that high, over a scoop of ice cream.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, because there was no written confession. It was simply a verbal confession, according to the sheriff there. But tell me first, how did Stinney actually become a suspect in this case?
Well, that's the worst part of all. You know, he became a suspect because he was actually part of the search party looking for the 2 girls. Many members of the town that day decided to help find the girls. He joined the search party, and in the process of helping to find the girls, he mentioned that he had seen them earlier that day. And somehow the fact that he had seen the girls that day made him accounted for reasonable suspicion, and suddenly they decided to bring him in to police custody. So it was his willingness to help that made him, which is certainly not a sign of criminality, which made him a suspect in the first place.
And will this case be reopened? I mean, if it has been undercovered, certainly in our opinion, now it's getting some attention, but we're looking back at 1944.
Well, it's going to get reopened most likely. I mean, there's the political will to do it. There's a desire to do it. The sad part, of course, is that the stakes are relatively low. Even after we find out that he was ultimately not guilty, that he was in fact completely innocent, we can't bring him back to life. He can't get his family back. His family can't get him back. It's a tragic circumstance, but it's still worth reopening because we want to show that just how flawed our criminal justice system is and how flawed our death penalty is as a moral and political project. And maybe if we can do that consistently, we'll stop having executions today, because the system is just as flawed today. We saw that with Troy Davis last week.
All right, Mark Lamont Hill, appreciate having you on the show. Thank you.